And we begin with that major revelation from the royal family. Kate Middleton, the Princess of Wales, has been diagnosed with cancer and is undergoing chemotherapy. Now, this comes after weeks of speculation about her whereabouts since she was hospitalized in January for abdominal surgery. The 42-year-old royal hasn't been seen publicly since Christmas until a video surfaced this week of her and her husband, Prince William. We'll have more on the medical side of this story in just a moment, but we start first with Charlie D'Agata from Buckingham Palace. Charlie.
In January, I underwent major abdominal surgery in London, and at the time, it was thought that my condition was non-cancerous. The surgery was successful. However, tests after the operation found cancer had been present.
A stunning public address about a very private matter following weeks of speculation about Kate's well-being and whereabouts after that surgery back in January. And the cruel conspiracy theories on social media, especially after that family photo Kate had to apologize for badly photoshopping a couple of weeks ago.
She hopes that with this announcement, that a lot of that social media, wild stuff on social media and some of the more insensitive media coverage will dampen down, will quieten down. That is very much their hope.
To the world, she's Catherine, the Princess of Wales. But firstly, a 42-year-old mother of 3 young children, Prince George, 10, Princess Charlotte, 8, and Prince Louis, just 5. Which is why they timed the announcement to today's Easter break, when the children were off school for a few weeks.
Most importantly, it has taken us time to explain everything to George, Charlotte, and Louis in a way that's appropriate for them and to reassure them that I'm going to be okay.
Palace sources tell CBS News she's already begun the early stages of a course of preventative chemotherapy. They won't say what type of cancer or exactly when she was diagnosed, and they've made clear they won't be sharing that information. But it comes on the heels of King Charles's cancer announcement in early February. And she finished by adding there was another reason she wanted to share the news.
At this time, I'm also thinking of all those whose lives have been affected by cancer. For everyone facing this disease, in whatever form, please do not lose faith or hope. You are not alone.
And Charlie joins us now from outside of Buckingham Palace. Charlie, you mentioned that there was so much speculation. Everybody seemed to have an opinion about the princess prior to this announcement. What are you hearing there now as the public reacts to the news?
Well, Lana, it's not an exaggeration and it's not a lazy description to say that the nation will be in a state of shock tonight. You know, the information was released to us just a few minutes before the 6 o'clock news here. That's the news that everybody watches in the evening. That was intentional. And there's been so much speculation since January. She had this major abdominal surgery. Then she sort of disappeared, and everybody's saying, well, where is she? Why aren't we seeing her? Why won't the palace put her forward? And then there was that badly photoshopped photo and family photo, which was meant to allay fears during Mother's Day, and people have been asking questions. And you know what the tabloids are like here? You know, you've been here yourself. They're so aggressive, and they're saying, what is the palace trying to hide? But there are very few people who would have expected that it was going to be a cancer diagnosis. Remember, this is a 42-year-old woman, you know, with young kids. She always ranks as one of the most popular royals. So I guarantee you, over the course of the next few days, the next few weeks, everybody will turn from what is the palace trying to hide into, is Kate going to be okay?
Yeah. All right. Charlie D'Agata, thank you.
Thank you.
Our chief medical correspondent, Dr. Jon LaPook, joins us now here in Studio 57. So good to see you. So there's a lot of questions, and I think the biggest one right now is what type of cancer does she have? Obviously, even though she revealed a lot in that video, she chose to keep that private. Is there a reason, perhaps, why she's not sharing that information?
I think this is an age-old situation, right, with well-known people where you're trying to have their sense of privacy protected. And she's a mother, and she's a human being. She's a person, and she's entitled to her privacy. On the other hand, she's on a world stage, and people are very curious about what's going on. I think what was interesting to me when they said that it was found after the surgery, right, in testing. And what it said to me, what it implied to me, was that maybe this has been diagnosed at a very early stage. Because you think about it, it was planned surgery. So if it was planned surgery, they must have done CAT scans beforehand or similar MRIs, things like that. Then they go into the operating room and they're looking at your abdominal cavity and they're looking at it. So if there's any obvious cancer there, they should see it. They didn't see it there. Didn't see it on the scans, didn't see it in the operating room. Then they said it was found in testing done afterwards. So they don't say exactly what that is. I assume one thing it could have been is they had a surgical specimen, they sliced it open, they looked under the microscope, but they said, oh, there's some cancer cells, what a surprise. And to me, that means that, well, on the one hand, you hate to hear that it was cancer, but on the other hand, if she does have to have cancer, finding it at its early a stage as possible is what you want to do, because that's the stage where it's most potentially curable.
Well, and they described it as preventative treatment.
So that's different. It's a very confusing term, right? So when they say preventative chemo, it's confusing because it's the same as adjuvant chemo. It's not preventing the cancer. She already has the cancer. What it's preventing is if there are microscopic little cells that are already in her body somewhere, we can't see them, we can't measure them. Giving chemo now, when they're most vulnerable, we can maybe kill those cells before they have a chance to grow up, form clumps, form metastases, spread to other parts of the body. Once they've spread to other parts of the body, it's really tough to treat them at that stage. So what you're preventing is preventing those potentially, we don't know that they're there, but preventing any cells that happen to be there from getting bigger and spreading.
Well, it seems like such a nuclear option, chemotherapy, right? But as we heard, this is the early stages, according to that statement.
Well, let me interrupt you when you said nuclear, right? Because people, I think, are quite frightened of chemo, and I know, it can be very frightening to even think that you have to get it. But when you have adjuvant, it tends to be for several months. For colon cancer, for example, it's about 3 months. And you have the chemotherapy, and you may have some fatigue, and you may have some nausea, decreased appetite. But generally, once the chemo is over, you tend to return towards normal.
So is it more targeted? Is it different from what we have in our minds about chemotherapy?
Right. Well, I think it's the length and the strength of the chemo. When you're doing adjuvant chemo, it tends to be a limited, there's a beginning, a middle, and an end, and that may be about 3 months. It could be a little bit longer. When you think about people being on chemo for months and months and months and on and on and on and on, then you start getting into bigger side effects. You can have neuropathy, problems with your nerves, on and on and on. I'm not trying to minimize this. She has a diagnosis of cancer. It must be frightening as anything for her. She's getting chemotherapy. We associate chemotherapy with something super serious, which it is. But on the other hand, if this was found early, and if they're doing the chemotherapy really as sort of belt and suspenders, it's possible that the cancer's all out of her body, but just in case there are some cells there, let's give some chemotherapy.
All right. Long road ahead still. Dr. Jon LaPook, thank you.